Good morning. Welcome to Meteorological Winter, December 1st. And right on cue, we get a winter event. Isn't that exciting? Hello to Cameron. I knew you were going to be here, Cameron. Hello, Shonda, Blue. See, Carrie, are you here, Carrie? I didn't check. Let me go all the way back up. I don't see Carrie yet. See Tina, I see Les. Good morning to you. Hello, Adam. Dave and Jean. Hello, Bryce. Hello, Amy. Good to see you. The Zombie Turtle's on. All right, I know we're ready. All right, everyone. Hello. Hope you all have had a good weekend. Holiday weekend at that. A little bit of a longer one for some of you. So you had a chance to visit some friends and relatives. You're probably like, okay, that's enough. I'll come back and see you guys in a few weeks. A couple days was enough. I hope you're all having a good Monday, too, so far. I know this is the buzz in town, as it should be. The first snow always gets everyone excited, and that's part of the fun of snow forecasting in Ohio Valley. Now, the question is, well, there's multiple questions. One of the bigger ones, obviously, is going to be how much are we going to get? How bad will the roads be? Will there be sleet involved? Could we see any type of freezing rain? Will there be any icing? Will the streets be closed? Will I be able to travel even tomorrow afternoon? Will there be refreezing Tuesday night into Wednesday? Trust me, I can read your minds. I don't have to look at the chat. I can read your minds where you're going with all this. Now, what I'm about to cover will likely explain a lot of that and answer all of those questions. So be patient. Let me get out of my head what I'm trying to explain, and then hopefully I will answer that. And then if I didn't, then yes, it's fair. Then you come at me, and I'll try to help you out. Fair enough? Okay. Type 3 if you're ready to go. Type 3 if you're ready to go to dive into it. Hello, Tater Tot. Haven't seen you in a while. I see some threes. Not sure I see enough threes. Maybe you guys don't want to know about the snow. Maybe I'm wrong. We can discuss the severe weather outlook for the spring season if you would like. That could be more exciting. Oh, a lot of threes now showing up. Okay. Maybe it's just a delay. All right. I'm just picking on you all today, as you all know. All right, let's get into the snowboard. Let's start there. And several items on here we're tracking. Obviously, tonight it's going to be the snow event that will be moving through the area. How that will play out, we'll cover. Thursday is more of an Arctic front that settles in the area. The question is, will we get any type of wave or a little ripple, if you will, of energy to ride along that boundary Thursday into Friday? Right now, I don't see anything too impressive with that, so we'll go with just like a flurries or snow showery type of setup, but those can be sneaky. So I'll explain what that will look like. And then right on its heels at the end of the weekend will be more of a clipper type of setup. Several clippers actually showing up down the road. So we'll cover all that toward the very end here, but at least give you an idea of the game plan, the agenda. Here's the syllabus that we're going to cover for the day today. All right, let's get into the current setup. Well, this is good if you're a snow lover. You want it to be cold and you want it to be cloudy before it arrives. If we had a lot of sun, then it gets a little more complex. And I'm saying that because some of you are getting some sun right now in our southern counties. And that's where the more complex area will be in this system, will be areas that had any type of modest amount of heating today, even small amounts to get you into the upper 30s. Your forecast becomes a little more complex because of that. Areas that stay in the clouds, which I think is going to be roughly along northern Kentucky into southern Indiana. Fairly easy to go with a mainly snow setup. I'm not really sold on there being a whole lot of sleet involved on the northern side here of the viewing area, but our southern counties get the amount of sun, the amount of heat that we try to gain today. That's where things get a little more complex. And I'll kind of show you that here in just a second. Temperature outside running still below freezing. We're frozen everywhere in Wave Country. We're all below that mark. 29 in Louisville. It's been a cold couple of days. Yesterday was really cold, right? That wind added on to it. You can tell something was coming yesterday when you're outside. You can just kind of feel that vibe. You know, that the air is a little different before you get into a wintry system. It always has that eeriness to it. In the 20s though now. Again, a very modest climb here today, depending on how much the clouds can try to thin out at the moment. Not a lot here to work with. The modeling at times been trying to thin out some of these back around Evansville, but they're moving in so quickly from the west. I think that will outrun any type of low-level clearing. The higher deck of clouds should win on keeping areas roughly in Indiana and near 64 fairly cloudy for the rest of the day. Against our southern tier, you have a chance for a little bit of modest warmth, if you will. That will complicate things a bit. Let's get into where we're at with the system, and it's still in two pieces. They have not shaked hands yet. So the one at the northern piece is the one that's driving a lot of the wintry aspect to it. Snow breaking out. It is covering the roads in many spots in Missouri and into Kansas. Several reports of that. I've been watching the feeds, Weather Service feeds there out in that area of the country, and they are reporting slick road conditions in that area from the Midwest area of especially Missouri. So that's the northern piece. That will be really what will give the I-70 corridor, especially just north of us, a decent light snow event. Their snow ratios are going to be higher. And what I mean by that is typical on the planet of a snow to one, a ratio of rain versus snow. Typically, it's for every 1 inch of rain, you can get 10 inches of snow. That's about the average. In our area, especially early season events, tend to be a little closer to 6 to 8 to 1. So we usually need a little bit more of a kick on colder air to kind of help us out. Once we get into January and February, we're getting these Arctic air masses, we can get to snow ratios of 20 to 25 inches per 1 inch of liquid. That's where you get some really dry, fluffy snow. So the snow ratio is running roughly about 15 into the I-70 corridor in Indiana and Illinois. So they're going to get not as much moisture as what we will get, but they have the ability to allow for fluffier snow. So it looks a little more impressive when you stick the ruler in the ground. You get more snow out of it. So that's why the snow total map, when you see it on other wider views, I'm going to just zoom in on our view here for this outlook. But in wider views, you'll see a stripe of heavier snow in Indiana. Like, wait a minute, what's the deal with that? It's just really a combination of the main piece, the northern piece of it, and the idea they have a higher ratio there. It's not as high here. I think we're going to be averaging very close to 8, maybe 9 to 1, the way it's looking now on some of the numbers for this event. So not ideal, but still not bad for the first day of December. I've certainly seen far worse than that later in the season. So this is actually a pretty decent setup. But there's two pieces we've talked about, whether or not they can shake hands. That's the key on this. One's to the north, one's to the south. Right now, they don't want to talk to each other. Don't even look at me. So they're not in a mood, but they are trending toward a phase that will likely happen as they move toward the Appalachians and eventually become one main system off the northeast coastline. Now, the connecting point, the phasing itself, the hands begin to shake somewhere across Kentucky. We will likely see that happen. And I'm thinking it's I-75 looks to be a really good spot that we will likely see the two begin to kind of blend together. Before that happens, there will likely still be a relatively distinct separation between the two, which is going to cut down on some of the snow totals where you do see that separation. Once they begin to combine a little more, you will see a much more gel looking snow map that will start to develop. Obviously, if they phase a little faster than expected, we will be pushing that back more west. But I'm giving you the data as it is right now. And it looks like the I-75 looks like to be a fair corridor of the handshake that will eventually happen. But they're going to move through. It is going to snow. So that I'm very confident saying that it is going to snow tonight. Now, the question, of course, is how much will you get? And could you get something that could interrupt that in terms of other precipitation types? And for some of you, that will indeed be the case. So let me clear off the radar so you can see, again, the two paths that were coming into play. This is what the models have had to deal with. When did this system first show up? 10, 15 days ago. It's been a while. We've been talking about this one. And that was the debate that a lot of the long range models had. They couldn't figure out when to phase them. Do they phase at all? Or are the speeds way off? Is the northern one going a full day faster than the southern piece? Then it was just messy, right? That's the problem you get with long range forecasting. You got to get the timing just right. And until they really get into the United States, we don't really get a lot of data on that. But it's always fun and tracking it and trying to see what the true storyline will be on this, right? So here we go. Here are the alerts that are out. And most of these are winter weather advisories that we're talking about instead of winter storm warnings, because the system is moving fairly quick, and it's not fully phased. So it does limit the amount of moisture this thing can really produce. In many cases, it will be below thresholds for winter storm warnings. But it's important to note, winter storm warnings mean something different in Nashville than it does in Indianapolis than it does in Chicago. It's climate based. So sometimes a heavier snow event here, which would be a winter storm, would only be a winter weather advisory in the Midwest. So you look at these maps and it looks a little confusing sometimes because it's all based on the climate of the local weather where those alerts are out. I hope that makes sense. So it's really hard to show these on a wide view on bigger systems because it looks like that somebody's getting a bigger snow than others when in reality it's the same amount, just different criteria. I think you guys get it. Notice one example of that would be the Northeast where it's fully phased. They have winter storm watches that are out as they will likely get a heavier period of snow with it being fully phased in off the New England coastline. Okay, let me zoom in on that a little closer so you can see. Don't think this is done yet. The winter weather advisory is out, kicks in at 10 o'clock tonight, set to expire, I believe it's 9 a.m. tomorrow. So this is a nighttime event. Majority of this will be, you will go to bed tonight. You may see something out the window when you go to bed, depending on what time you go to bed. But by the time you get into, well, that's a delayed response. Okay. Once you get into the tomorrow morning time period, it'll be done and over with. So you likely will already have at least a good setup of snow on the ground out your window. So that's always the exciting part. It's always a temptation. At least for me as a kid, I had the window. I could tell it was bright, but I didn't know if it was just, daylight or was it really bright because the snow was out the window and everything was really bright. I always had to take a deep breath before I open the blinds because I'm like, I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to be disappointed. I'll just do a little sneak peek. And then you slowly start to peel back and then you start to look. And then when you see it's all covered in snow, then it just puts a smile on your face, right? Or frustrating if you got to drive it and you're like, oh no. I get mixed feelings. But true snow lovers, you know what I'm talking about. That first little peek out the window gives you a lot of anxiety because you're just bracing yourself for what you're about to see and hope that it's what you thought it would be, right? All right, it's fun. Okay, so the one change may happen. Wouldn't roll out those of you in Marion County into Taylor and Greene and Hart getting added into the advisory. It's possible. I don't think we'll run into a lot of issues initially, but as the night wears on, you may run into issues. So there is a chance this may get extended all the way down actually into even Adair. So even though you're not in it now, there's still some wiggle room here for some adjustments. So make sure to pay close attention to the forecast. Everywhere else, I think where everything's placed looks good to me. It looks fair. All right. Let's show you one model's idea. It's tough to show them all, of course, but I'll give you a general idea of where we're at. And I'll get to some of your questions. I know there's a lot of questions flying in. So just hang tight. I'll get to you. I promise. And if you need the ability to chime in and write in a question, remember, I can't see it on the app, but I can see it on social media, Facebook, X, Twitch, and what's the other one? Facebook, right? Yeah, Facebook, YouTube. You can go there to type in your comment, and I will see them all on all the platforms light up here. So be patient there, and I will look in just a second. I just want to get all these details out first. This morning, we're good, just cloudy and cold. Here we go, about 7, 8 o'clock tonight. Now, this is where the two pieces start to show up. The southern piece and the northern one start to get a little closer to us. Now, the radar, or the futurecast, is indicating a lot of green here. But when I looked at the soundings for this area, yeah, I could see why it's trying to do that. And it depends on which model you want to look at. But I only found one, to be honest, that was really a sleet indicator for Louisville. The rest were snow right out of the gate. Now, you get into southern Kentucky, yes. Several of them were either sleet and or freezing rain. It was kind of a combination of two, depending on the depth of the cold layer. So I could see why our southern counties are going to battle the type level at first. Once we get into mid-evening, it may bounce around depending on where you're at. Even in elevation, it will matter a bit on where you're located. So this could be a little bit on the slick side if that were to develop. Roads are cold. I know that they're not frozen solid, but we've been cold for the past several days. So I don't see warm ground temps being an excuse here on this one. The ground's cold. It can handle ice and it can handle snow and become slick. So I'm starting on that idea that's going to be a factor. So you get into Louisville. This is the area that I think this is likely going to be all snow. If there's any sleet at all, it would only be in the first 45 minutes or so of it. And then eventually the colder weather will be able to take over there. All right, so here's a snapshot of 8. Let's move it up to 11 o'clock tonight. Still dealing with some iffiness here south of the parkways. Hopefully, if you want snow, you really want to get cloudy here soon and stay cloudy the rest of the day. If you end up with a lot of sun here, yeah, this is going to be a mess because you're going to have enough energy from the sun to warm up some of those pavement temperatures in our southern counties before they have a chance to drop to where, yes, you'll end up with mixed types getting involved. But I think if you're north of the parkways, I know it's showing rain over Louisville. It's kind of laughable, but I don't think that's going to be a worry. This is a fairly cold setup, so this should be all snow by the time we get to the 11 o'clock news tonight. All right, now here's where we get into some questionable parts. You get to about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I really think it's the midnight to 4 a.m. window. That's the crucial time for this storm system on snow, 12 to 4. If something's going to go a little array, and a lot of you look for that, the catalyst, the what if kind of factor, this is where it could start to show up because you've got more moisture being at play in our southern counties. Question is, do you flip over to snow or do you still stay into sleet and freeze and rain? And typically in these setups, especially if the rate is heavy enough, and you see the yellow indicated here, I mean, I think the rate will be enough that should allow for dynamic cooling, and you should be able to cool the column down to go to snow. And this is where you can get some big flakes south of Louisville. I mean, it's still going to be decent in Louisville and Indiana. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's going to be pretty flakes coming down. I just think some of your bigger flakes are going to be right on the edge of where you go from rain to sleet, freeze, and rain mix, whatever, into snow. Right at that point where it transitions over. You're going to be right at that point of 31, 32 degrees. That's the sweet spot if you want a thumping of snow. That's where you want to be, as close to that level. The more you are in the colder air, yes, it's easier to say you're going to get snow because you're in the depth of the colder air. But your rates are not as impressive, but it's still pretty. And if you want to lock on getting snow, at least on the ground in a pretty setup, then most people probably want to be in that zone to the north. That way they can relax and know they don't have to worry about a type changeover or anything like that. Our southern counties, it's a gamble. It's a gamble here. We don't know which type will last the longest, but so far on all the signings I've looked at, there is a collapse of the column. Dynamic cooling kicks in. You go to a burst of snow, and it could be fairly large flakes coming down in the middle of the night. Again, nighttime snow also in our favor. But this system's got speed to it. I mean, it's not a very slow-moving, evolving setup. This is moving a lot faster than you probably would want it to. That's the reason why when you go to bed and wake up tonight and to tomorrow morning, it's going to be a hit here and gone already. I mean, it's not a long duration event, so that will cut the limit that this thing can do. But having said that, that 12 to 4 window, I think, is going to be the most interesting for us to watch. It moves on by. Here we are at 2 a.m. It continues. So that snow band right on the sweet spot. This is why, again, if this trend continues, they'll have to extend an advisory down further south to account for that. Because by the time we get past the 4 or 5 a.m. window, enough of the column has collapsed and cooled because we're on the backside of the system. Everyone should be snow at that point. I don't see how there's going to be any mix still involved after 2 to 3 a.m. The mix concern is at the very, very beginning. Even in Louisville, that's fair to say, sleet could be involved at the very beginning. In Louisville, it'll be very short duration, an hour or two, then we're all snow. In central and southern Kentucky, you may have to deal with about 3 to 4 hours of some iffiness on your type, and then you're going to go to snow and you're snow for the rest of the event. And for Indiana, it's all snow the whole time. So it's really our southern counties that have more of the type challenge, precipitation type. It moves on out, and then here we go tomorrow morning. It's gone already out of here. Fair enough? All right, so this is how the storyline will look. Every model has a little different story to this. I'm not going to show you them all because there's not a point in doing that. It's now models are just taking different ideas and spitting them out, and there's no sense in that. I just want you all to get the understanding of what we're looking at on the storyline, and that's what you will be tracking. You weather watchers out there will be on the Wave Weather app looking at the radar function. You'll be tracking it with us. That's the element we're watching is what I just laid out for you on the different types and areas to watch in the time period to really watch for the biggest change on the radar colors and types you'll likely see at your window. So timing wise, when does this start? Well, we could start getting some sleet and even some snow in Indiana southwest Indiana, but some sleet will start to show up mixed in as we head into just after sunset. It should be very, very light and very blotchy. There's no definitive wall of sleet and or freezing rain that comes our way. It's going to be just kind of patchy at first. Then it will all start to fill in. As the handshaking, the phasing begins, everything starts to fill in area wide. And that's where we take the chance of precipitation going up to 100%, is when all these gaps just fill in with craziness at that point, right? And at that point, we'll go with mainly snow in most areas, especially as we move into the second leg of the system. So here's what we're facing. I'm showing you a rainfall map. And you're like, well, that's nice. Because this is important. Remember the moisture I talked about. This is what we are basically being held. And on a plate here is 1/4 of an inch, some spots in southern Kentucky up to 1/2 an inch. This is liquid. Now, this is what we have. Now, it's up to the atmosphere to determine how much of what we're given will be translating into something wintry. Typically, 1/4 of an inch amount, 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch in general in our area is advisory level snow. That seems to match up. We have a winter weather advisory, so it seems fair. You get to a little more 4/10 to 1/2 inch. Yeah, you get a little closer to winter storm warning level, but you see where those numbers are. It's our southern counties that have those values of 0.4 and 0.5. Well, the problem there, obviously, as we've alluded to, is that some of that amount is being sacrificed as a different type. So some of that will be in the form of sleet. Sleet is a snow eater, by the way. Sleet will steal. It is stingy. Sleet is very stingy. Don't say it very fast. Steals it all away and cuts down on what's left for you to use now to make snow out of it. So you don't want sleet. Freezing rain, obviously, no one wants, because you can't drive on that at all. It's just messy. So be careful if we were to get more of a freezing rain set up for a few hours there. But this is what you got to work with. This is the reason why we do not have widespread winter storm warnings everywhere. And why this is not going to be a blizzard is that it has a limit on moisture. Snow ratios will matter, and they will be changing. I think, again, we'll start off roughly around 8 to 1 at the beginning of the system and may increase to about 12 to 1 at the end of it. So in Louisville, say 2/10 of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch. Some of that will be exactly the right math equivalent. And then some of that we may get a little bit of a fluffier dry snow at the very end on top of that. So that's where, if you're going to get any higher end totals, that's where we'll come into play. So that's the amount of moisture we're looking at. Notice there is this little triangle right here, or is it the greater than? I always get these backwards in math. I was never good at this. Greater than, less than sign. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Kind of a Pac-Man look. You can clearly see where they're not phased west of 65, and then you see what happens as they get toward 65 and 75. Where the phasing, they start to connect more. That's important because of this, the snow map. We're accounting for that idea that there will be some sleet and snow, but in some areas you'll have lower amounts of moisture to work with. So it's a little tough yet to say how much of snow you'll get. So we're going the lower end, and this is probably right at 1 inch, to be honest. Louisville, it will be a tough one. I think 1 to 2 is fair. If we end up with gaining a higher ratio at the very end of the system, after 3 o'clock in the morning, the very last 90 minutes of the event, if that snow ratio can go up to about a 12 to 1 number, then we could gain another 1/2 inch or an inch on top. So 3 is possible in Louisville. I'm not going to rule it out. I just think 1 to 2 seems more likely. Okay. Indiana, it's a bit higher ratio snow, even higher as you head toward Indianapolis, way at the top there. And I think right now, for those of you where the phasing happens, that's where we need to watch to see how much of that 1/4 to, in some cases, near a 1/2 inch, you can score to be more on the frozen side. And therefore, you can easily get into the 2 to 4 inch range. 5 inch totals are reachable because of the amount of moisture. I'm thinking that maybe just outside of wave country, maybe a Lexington issue, or even a little further south, you could get a 5 inch total out of that, right at the max point of phasing. That may be too far east of us. It's going to be interesting, exciting to watch. And it's not a crippling snowstorm. You guys will be able to get around, and you're not going to be snowed in for days. Okay. It's a good training wheels system if you're new to the area, especially to get used to how things operate. We do know that District 4 is already out, salting the roads and pre-treating the best they can. For Breckenridge County, Grayson County, our southern counties here, they're being pre-treated now. They run a risk with that, as always, with if it's starting as more of a rain snow mixture. that could wash away the pre-treatment, but I think it's worth the risk. Go ahead and do it anyway. It's relatively cheap, actually, to go ahead and just put it down and hope that it's still there. And I'm sure they'll be doing some brining and salting in general for Indiana, and probably even the little metro may have some treatment being done at some point today. I haven't heard officially on that. Before I go to the next map, any questions on this? I'll leave this up for a second because this is what you all want to know. No one ever talks about Frankfurt. I'll talk about Frankfurt. Frankfurt is in that spot where you can get a little closer to the 3 inches. You're right at that spot there where you can get a little more closer to that phasing issue. You be later. Okay, Adam's answering. Thank you. Travis, I live in Chablis. Should I get? I don't think it's. I don't know if a snowplow is. Depends on what the minimum requirements are for that, Travis. I think a lot of the help is going to be salting. The snow is going to be a wet snow, and then it'll go into a dry snow at the very end. So you'll have a layer of wet snow and then a dry, fluffy snow on top of that. So it'll be easy to swipe away initially, but you'll get to that very first layer. It will likely be ice, and that's where the scraper will have to come in. So on the plowing side, Travis, I'm not sure what equipment you'll have to use there and your setup where you're going to be at, but it may be a combination of two. So a heads up, make sure to find your ice scrapers for your car. Again, you may be able to use the brush initially on it, but underneath that, it would likely be more of an icy compact on your windshield. So you will have to do a little bit of that. You have to put some elbow in it and get that scraped off. Chris, which shifts, if any, are possible? I think it's not so much of a shift, it's phasing. An earlier phase would bring in, it would look more the angle than I drew here. If my pen will work, hold on. It would more be like that. So therefore we would take the darker blues a little bit more south, and then the darker blue would probably be pushed a little bit further back to most of our counties. Would be in a much more widespread 2 to 4. And that's not that's not being ruled out yet. The system is still in its phasing here, or about to be in the next 12 hours. So as the day wears on today, if we start to see the data locking in on the idea, if they're off a little bit on timing, and we see that they're trying to connect and handshake a little faster, then we will be adjusting the snow map on that level. But that's relatively minor. That would only make a difference in reality of about an inch in many cases being added into these totals. It wouldn't be anything that would be like a foot of snow on the way. Again, it's because it just doesn't have enough moisture. So it's got a limit. I think right now it's an issue of how much of what you get on type, especially in Southern Kentucky. And then, of course, if we end up on the upper end of the advisory level or not, like in the 3 to 4 category, or do we stay in the lower end, 1 to 2? I think the later phasing will keep most areas closer to about, I think 2 is going to be a very common number. There's going to be a lot of 1.8s, 2.1s, 2.4s. There'll be a few 3s. I went right at 4 total, but I think then at 1.8 to 2.3, I think that's going to be a very common measurement that I'm expecting to see out of the system. What about Bardstown? Yeah, same storyline for Bardstown. You'll be in that spot where, again, you could get a little bit of that burst of snow. Keep an eye on the trends this evening tonight. Again, if you go from a mixture of sleet and freeze and rain, and then suddenly you look out the window and say it's only 11 o'clock at night and you're just full on snow, big flakes coming down, and you're in Bardstown, that is your first sign that it's likely going to have a bit of overachieving. You're going to be on the upper end of that scale and likely a little closer to the 4 inches. So you weather watchers out there, let us know your reports. Remember, you have MPing. Also on the Wave Weather app, we have the ability to send in photos. You can send the good photo of the day or the weather photo. It doesn't matter. Just send it in. Fill out the form. Be as detailed as you can, please. Don't just send us a picture of your patio furniture with snow on it. That doesn't tell us a whole lot. We need to know where you're at. So let us know where you're at. How much did you measure? Measure not in the grass. Measure in the open area away from wind and a flat surface. All right. Don't not against the house, but don't do the grass. And if you're doing video, which we love showing video, make sure to turn your phone sideways and shoot the video. And again, the more details you can tell us, it helps us out in knowing the reality that the system is doing, and it also gives us an idea on placement on the snow map of how things are playing. Let's see. Which day would be technically over the one. The contest between days. It would be the calendar day, so it would have to be the calendar day. So in this case, if you got some snow before midnight, then some. If you got 1 inch before midnight at Louisville, I doubt that would happen. It would really be about December 2nd, though. It has to be the calendar day, midnight to midnight. So I think in Louisville's case, for the snow contest, is what Renee is referring to, it likely will be the 2nd of December. Majority of our amount will be then. So I don't think it's going to be a huge issue right now. Okay. All right. You guys have a lot of different questions on location stuff. I'm not able to get to a lot of them because I have a limited amount of time here today, but at least wanted to cover where we're at here. Moving on, because we have other things we need to cover here. The snow meter, I'm going to give us a 3, mainly a social media talker. Not quite into a lot of shoveling that'll have to be done. I mean, maybe some minor shoveling in your driveway or sidewalk, but I don't think it's just going to be a overly deep snow. It depends on your preference, I guess. It's very subjective. But I'll give it a 3 on the scale. We haven't seen a 10 storm in a long, long time. So hope it doesn't come back. But here's the problem, though. Say a forecast of 1 to 3 inches. Look how many times we have to deal with crashes in the Louisville metro with the lighter snows. The biggest headache we have in Louisville is the 1/2 inch to 1 inch snowfall. Then you get into the 1 to 3. So I don't make decisions for schools. We'll let you know what's decided, but we run into more issues, and it's because of the obvious. It's not heavy enough to close things down, but it's impactful enough that people are still venturing out, have to go to jobs, got to work, got to get to school. So therefore, it makes sense. The number of crashes does increase. You get into your bigger snows, the number of crashes goes down because a lot of you are at home. Everything's shut down. So I think this is easy to understand, but it is our biggest challenge we have in Louisville, especially in the metro, are these 1 inch to 3 inch type events that we're looking at for tonight and tomorrow. So the schools, we'll see what they decide. I can't imagine there's going to be some kind of impact, though. Yeah, Bryce, you're right. The first snow always leads to a lot of crashes. Yeah, especially people that are not from here or not used to this. I could tell you right now, the crews here do a good job. They have roads that they have to take care of first, especially around hospitals and schools. They have to be salted, and then they get into secondary roads later. So you kind of have to fend for yourself a bit on secondary roads until you get a little later in the day. So just be careful getting on your own driveway, but go slow. Don't be right on somebody's bumper. I know you may be running late, but is it worth it? Because you're not running your day, you're running other people's days. So just allow a lot of distance to your left, your right, and in front of you. Just go slow, take it easy. And if everyone did that, we'll all get there on time. So don't be in any hurry. Even though you may have the new 4x4 Bronco and you're like, I can do this, I'm going to make it. Now, that's fine. Good. It doesn't mean you need to go by me at 80 miles per hour, though, in snow. That's not going to be a good thing either. Okay, so please take it slow. All right, looking at the matrix. Oh, you guys thought I forgot about that. This is what it looks like, by the way. This is the Euro ensembles. You want to see all the different ensemble members, each line here kind of fill in with a snow outlook. And look what happens when you get all of them filled in. Oh, isn't that pretty? At that point, you then look at the colors, and the average on that is roughly 2 inches is the average on that. So again, an advisory level snow, fairly locked in for Louisville. And then you get into the lighter snow flurry type of setup, and then maybe some clippers down the road, but they're not all filled in, and it's hard to even pick out really which day to focus on because it's noisy though. So that's step one. Here's what it looks like on the Futurecast itself. All right, we get past this event. Here comes the Arctic front. It's going to be settling in as we into Thursday, so it will get colder later this week as that front settles in. Question is, will we get any type of wave to develop along that? So far, the modeling says no, but you will likely get at least flurries on the leading edge. It's not going to show up on the model very well, but that's normal to see it. It moves on by, and here we go with the one for late Friday and Saturday. There's a hint, at least the Euro wants to try to take advantage. Do a very similar setup to the one we got tonight, at least the southern piece of it. It wants to try to develop another southeast low that will move through, but right now it moves so fast, and it's so dry in our area. I don't think it's going to have much on the snow side, but it could provide for a little bit of light snow maybe to start the weekend. And then we get into Clipperland. One drops in Sunday, and then one right after that. So those will have to be sorted out in the coming days. I'm not able to. Oh, there's another one after that on the 11th. So yay, Clipperland. Don't you love it? All right, here's the 10-day real quick, and then I got to get ready to run. Yes, we're going to go below freezing tomorrow. We'll likely stay below freezing. Even Wednesday, if we get sun, we can get to 37. But if we stay cloudy for the majority of the day, we're not going to get above freezing Wednesday either. So really, the thaw will be really tough to have happen here because the Arctic front moves in Thursday to drop us back down again. And then we got to reset. And every time we try to warm up, we get knocked back down. What is it, a Chumbawamba song from the 90s? Anyway. And then we have another chance, maybe some of those flurries down the road. But this is not a warm forecast. This is a cold one. And it's going to be fun of some fun and games there. All right, guys, I got to run. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you all. Please be safe. We'll have updates throughout the day on all of our newscasts and, of course, on social media. And the wave weather app will be one of the first spots you will hear about when it comes to the changes in the outlook in the next 10 hours, especially as more data rolls in. And good luck to you. And if you're new here, BOTS stands for Bring On the Snow. Hang tight.